When did you think to yourself that, okay, this is now going to be the stomping ground, the prove yourself for those who are going to become Grammy producers, Billboard charting producers, platinum producers? Like, when did you start seeing that?
I guess with do what you do, not do. I'm sorry. With best I ever had in forever. That was like, as I said, seeing LeBron and like at that time, those were like top tier entertainers in the world,
Right, right.
top basketball player, top rapper. Like that was like the cream of the crop, all in one video. Lil Wayne, Kanye, Eminem, LeBron. Like nobody was doing that, much less Drake. Like nobody else was doing that kind of thing, bringing all that together in one video. So that was kind of like the turning point. Like it was out of here after that.
What's up, everybody? I'm not your average Joseph from Music, and we're here with another episode of Producer Unplugged. But this time, it's not a producer in the house, but want to say responsible for a lot of producers making their headway into the music scene, um, from countless Grammys, platinum plaques, Billboard charting. These producers have come a long way from humble beginnings, and one of the persons who helped them get this start is a man by the name of Clifton. Goes 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 to locally, goes to international. The name is synonymous with producers who want to make it in the biz. The competition, you may have heard about it before. Battle of the Beat Makers. So I mean, I can only say so much. Clifton, introduce yourself to the people.
My name is Clifton. Founder of Battle of the Beatmakers. Started in 2005. The idea was conceived in '04, came to life in '05, March 2005 to be exact. I think March 26th or 5th to be specifically exact. And this year would be the 20th year anniversary. So it's a long story, a long history. A lot of legends have come up out of the platform. Time flew by like snap your fingers. It doesn't seem like 20 years at all. It feels like maybe 5 years has passed.
No,
But it's a whole generation has been born throughout this process. A daughter was born. My daughter was born the year BBM. The year BBM was conceived. She was conceived. So, or born, I should say.
wow,
So she's kind of like my measuring stick. When I want to see how far we've come, I just look at her, and she's kind of like the measuring
yeah,
stick
yeah, for sure.
of how long we've been at it. But yeah, it's the platform, as I said, responsible for a lot of people. It did a lot of movement for Toronto, Canada, and then it evolved to become like a global phenomenon. So just putting on producers from all over the world.
Both of you and I are from Toronto, the city itself. Growing up, wow, there wasn't much radio stations that we could listen to get hip hop music. Probably one or two college stations, but from a very early age, we were involved. Um, Tell the people how growing up in Toronto kind of shaped your direction going into the business of music, and then eventually just into the business of making producers a household name itself.
Well, I don't even know where to start with that one. Well, I mean, I was born in a musical household. I was born on the East Coast in Nova Scotia, so I was born into this is before hip hop. So when I was growing up, the first sounds I heard was like your Smokey Robinson, your Motown, um, just soul music, R&B. I didn't hear no hip hop in Scotia. We didn't have no reggae. We didn't have none of that. So I was just basically Black American music was what I was exposed to in my
Okay.
earliest experiences with music. Um, in the early '80s, I moved to Toronto. So now I'm encompassing a whole different black music still, but a whole broader spectrum of black music. So now you're incorporating the reggae, the dancehall, the calypso, the soca, African music. Not to mention your pop music, of course, your Michaels and your Princes and your Madonnas and all that stuff. So it's just a big pot of stew of all these different musical flavors, and that kind of been
Right.
kind of cliche Toronto. Like Toronto's so multicultural. People always say, "How do we get our sound?" It came from the fact it's so multicultural. But in my specific case, it was just all those different musical influences, and I can't even forget rock and country because that also played a part. Just as much we'd go to a billiards and hear Michael, we'd also hear a Dolly Parton or something like that. You know what I mean? So our our
Yeah.
our
Yeah.
our palette was broad, and that's kind of like the story of any kid kind of growing up in Toronto. You're gonna experience rock because we have a more if you want to call it minority population, was kind of smaller back in those days, but it's grown over the years. So in those earlier years, you're going to an event. Put it this way: we had one hip hop station at a point in time. It eventually became two,
Right.
and then over the years, it grew to three or four. But then when it came to like visually experiencing the culture, we had Rap City once a week, half an hour a week, so 30 minutes of visual hip hop or dancehall or any black entertainment pretty much for the week. So that's where we're coming from. We're coming from a world where we don't really have a lot of access to this unless you physically go to New York to experience hip hop or physically go to Jamaica to experience dancehall. All we're getting here is like 30-minute clips of videos, 1 hour radio show here, 1 hour radio show there. So I say that to say
Right.
we are more hearing like the rock and the pop and, even country stuff. You know what I mean? So it was very scarce to hear music that really catered to you, hip hop and whatnot. So that's kind of that's where it's starting from. So from there on, as you get a little bit older, you get more access. DVD VHSs are coming out, so you're getting to see the visual of shows that you might not see personally, but someone went to New York, someone went to Jamaica, someone went here, someone went there, and they're bringing it back. So you get to see what's going on around the world beyond your 30-minute clips of Rap City. And then
Yeah.
from
Yeah.
there, fast forward a little bit. Well, I won't fast forward yet because in high school, so now we're starting to see the local early stages of Toronto coming up, which like the Mishimis.
Now, what?
Go ahead.
Don't mean to cut you. Is that the first time we met? Will you say
Mhm.
you were in high school at that point?
One of my five, I went to five high schools, so that was my first high school we met. Yeah,
Okay.
it's been a
Okay.
long journey after that, but my first high school, Weston Collegiate, which Drake raps about a lot, Weston Road flows and whatnot. So I went to Weston Collegiate, Jana Lawrence. So that was a very pivotal time period because in that period of time, I'm seeing like Mishimi face, like I'm going to school with Mishimi, went to the same high school. So I might have been grade 9, she might have
Right.
been like
Right.
grade 11 to 12, but just to see like this person who I'm hearing on the radio, seeing on the music videos, hearing about, she tore up this show at Concert Hall, she tore up that show. So I'm hearing all this stuff about her. I'm hearing her songs on radio, and now I'm going to school with this person. So I'm seeing early Toronto hip hop up front, up close. And then people like Dream Warriors, another popular Toronto group who were the first group to I think do Platinum International, I believe, Gold or Platinum International. They were big in the UK, which is kind of one of the places where Toronto and UK first connected. I might say, you might say.
Right.
So seeing them even before they became a popular group, they were like just performing at talent shows. So they did one talent show at Weston Collegiate. So again, people who became the cornerstone or the foundation of Toronto hip hop, like the foundation, even Maestro. I would see Maestro come through clubs in the West End.
Maestro.
So just seeing these people, as I said, up and close. Maestro coming to a club, I think it was in Keel and Finch, you know, close to Jane and Finch. So you'd see Maestro, you'd see Dream Warriors, I'd see Mishi Me. So all the people that were like fundamental and developing the scene, I was seeing these people like on a weekend or at school or on a daily day basis. So
Right.
it
Right.
kind of
Right.
just made for, even though Toronto was on a much smaller scale then, it just let you see that, okay, well, if they could do something, it's possible I could do something. You know what I mean? As opposed to it being some
Right.
far fetched thing. It's like I'm seeing these people every day driving the Range Rover in King Lou's case, or yeah, I think it was the Cherry Pathfinder he used to drive. So just to see that, seeing these
Pathfinders.
people doing their
Was the
thing.
Pathfinders Maxima days?
Right, Pathfinder,
Right.
Maximus, the Isuzu Rodeo, the Sidekicks, all those kind of cars. So, but again, seeing that stuff firsthand, and seeing them in the neighborhood, it just became like, okay, well, I'm turning on Rap City and seeing all these people. Then I'm going to the local mall and seeing these people. So it's something that's possible for me. It's doable. It's within it's within reach. So that was kind of like the first seed of like, okay, maybe this is something I could kind of do. I was writing rhymes back
Right.
in those times. I was writing books and books of rhymes. But for some strange reason, I didn't understand how rappers memorized all their rhymes. And that kind of destroyed my
Mm,
confidence because I'm thinking like, okay, I can write this, but how am I going to memorize all this? And I just didn't have for some reason, I didn't want to ask anybody, like, how are they doing it? I just figured like it was some
right,
kind of
right.
super talent they had, you included, because you were rapping. And it's like, I just didn't understand,
Yeah.
how are people memorizing all these rhymes? I have books of rhymes, but I can't memorize it. I didn't know once you record it, you start to hear it over and over, and it just kind of like becomes, this is like a natural part of you. Once you play it over and
I,
over.
I mean, the first couple times I was in the studio, I think I had the paper with
Well, there you go.
me.
Well, there you go. But when it comes to like getting on stage, of course, any rapper when they first come out, they got stage fright. So I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to be able to memorize 16 bars or 24 bars or whatever it was, because I had books and books and books of rhymes. But I just didn't figure out. I just couldn't understand how people were memorizing all this stuff. So that kind of made me shy away from rapping, just because I wasn't sure how I was going to
Right.
perform this if I can't memorize it. So those are my like, and then also there was the breakdancing. I definitely went through the breakdancing era with Beat Street and breaking and wild style. So all that stuff came into fold. This is going from early mid '80s to late '80s into the '90s. And then after that, um, going to shows. Either it was the Monster Jams at Concert Hall, which Ron Nelson would put on, or whether it was a sound clash or just a stage show. Just to see Stone Love or Bass Odyssey or whoever was coming to town, hip hop or reggae. To us, it was for my
Right.
neighborhood, it was all one and the same. So if there was something
Right.
going
Right.
on at
Right.
Caravana, half of us would go to the hip hop opera house, and half of us would go to the Stone Love, and that's kind of how we always we moved. We were always a blend of both. Um,
You mentioned the name Ron Nelson, pretty much the Toronto pioneer. Again, back when we were growing up, before we had anything commercial, it was the college radio stations. We had this Fantastic Voyage program on CKLN, and then the Master Plan show on CUIT. How 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 influential do you think those were to the local scene, considering you're right, like, it's funny because you mentioned just listening to the country and rock. The other day I was at a function, and it was mostly Caucasians, and I was just pretty much rocking out, and they were looking at me like, where do you know these songs from? So
right,
I was like, I grew up on Chum FM.
right,
It's
right,
like, what do you mean,
right.
right? So it's funny because commercial didn't come till later on, but the foundation, I would say, for Toronto hip hop really came from the college radio
Without a
stations.
doubt.
How much how much time did you spend on a Saturday just vibing out to
I used to I
to
used to
Ron
follow
and
I
and,
used to
and
fall
Master
asleep and
Show?
wake up still listening to X. So I catch, because X, in my mind at least, he would play like the hardest stuff, the freshest stuff, the first hour, and then the
Right,
later part it would kind of wean off a bit. So I don't know if that was his style or that was how I interpreted it, but that's how it always came across to me. Like the first hour and a half was like all the new flavor, all the new, and then it would kind of. So I would like listen to it attentively and then fall asleep, maybe take a little cat nap halfway through the show, and then wake up and catch the last bit of it. And that was kind of like a
right,
normal thing for me. But religiously, all those shows, that was like our Bible. Like how the source became a Bible, that was like our audio Bible or ebook or however you
right.
want to call it. But that was like, never missed that. If I could, 100%, I was definitely gonna listen to Fantastic Voyage, Master Plan, DJ X, um, what was it? Yeah,
And we're talking like the pause tape
yeah,
era.
yeah,
This
for
is like
sure,
before
for sure,
mixtapes.
for sure.
Yeah.
For sure, for sure. I was definitely a master at that. I always had my tape ready, my masking tape to tape my tape and my tape cut. So if any tape's
Right.
cut, you just finally tape it together, and that was life. Your Walkman, you had to have your Walkman or your boombox, but that was life back then.
That was it. That was it. So we get past through the high school years, and then I think the next time that I ran into you was going to an audio school by the name of
Right,
Trevis. What was your thought process? Um, just out of high school, not really doing anything towards music, and then saying to yourself, this is kind of like the path that I want to go. Um, Let me kind of, I guess, find some sort of education to guide me along that path.
right. Well, I mean, it's coming from because you have those years where you just kind of like you're not really sure what you want to do. So at the time, I'm coming out of Jane and Finch, and I'm like, you're just kind of on the block. You're kind of like not sure what you want to do. So I heard about Trevis. I thought, yeah, okay, this might be cool. A music school. um my dad is a mechanical engineer, professional engineer. So I thought as long as it has something
Mhm.
connected to engineer, I'll kind of get his his
Right, you'd be
his
good.
praises. You know what I mean? So audio engineer was the closest you could get to his kind of engineer. So I went to Trebis. This was like 96 ish, somewhere around there. Um, it, wa-
That's about right. Yeah.
yeah, it was a cool class. I mean, the most memorable aspect of the class was being under the tutelage of Gadget. He's one of the pioneering producer engineers in the city. Whole bunch of people came up under his wing. So, and later years it'd be OVO, crafting the sound with OVO with 40 and whatnot. But he was like one of the main teachers that I look forward to. And then we didn't even get to spend a lot of time with him, for whatever reason. But
Right.
this is
Right.
analog. So everything is just big mixing boards and all that bunch of intimidating equipment So
Yeah.
it was just
Yeah.
that and going through the books, and it was very early Toronto. So even though, as I said, I grew up seeing like a Dream Warriors or a Mishi Me or going to a club and seeing Maestro, and there's a long list of other pioneering artists you would see just at talent shows in Jungle or this show in Rexdale or this show on Jane somewhere, because everybody traveled. As kids, we traveled to any neighborhood. The big man might have a beef with this one and that one, but for us, we traveled
Right.
anywhere. So
Right.
that was just the culture back then. And parties went all night. So we're coming home from parties sometimes at 5 a.m., just to give you a sense of what the culture was back in those times. But as far as Trebis, it didn't really give me, it gave me a certain thing of like, it gave me, as I said, the tutelage of Gadgets. So I got to see someone who I connected with, I guess you would say culturally, because majority of the teachers are all coming from rock and roll backgrounds. So once you see someone like Gadget with the dreads and whatnot, smoking a cigar, it's like, okay, I identify with him immediately, and I can kind of like rock
Yeah.
with him. Everyone else's energy, they're coming from a rock and roll background, country background. Even though we listen to that, it's different being taught by them because they're wired totally different than us. Even though we heard
Right. Right.
country, even though we heard rock, we still would rather be taught by someone like Gadget who could identify with us culturally and whatnot. Um, so I didn't finish the course. I did a few months in it, but I didn't actually finish the course. Um, but again, that was kind of like my formal introduction, if you will, to the behind the scenes of how the industry worked and how equipment worked, and we learned a little bit about record labels and little bit about videography, making videos and whatnot. So stuff like that. But again, this is the very rudimentary days where you don't really have nothing software, nothing digital. This
Right.
is just everything hardware, everything analog, big clunky equipment, and that was the world we were in at that point in time.
Yeah. I kind of knew of Gadget before going to Trebus. He was like one of those mythical mythical people
Right.
of the industry. But yeah, going to Trebus, exact same thing experience that I had was just being taught by and these guys were no slouches in the industry. What they represented as far as rock and roll and country was concerned, it just wasn't the vibe that we were there for. And funny enough, I think what kind of held Toronto or well, yeah, Canadian hip hop back for such a long time was that the engineers didn't understand how to produce or engineer those type of records. So the sounding wasn't the same quality as you would get coming from a US.
Right.
And it made the sound very distinct. And
I
you
always
know,
had an issue with that.
I mean, thank God for
Yeah.
Gadget. Gadget broke a lot of barriers as far as Toronto hip hop was
Right.
concerned. And those patterning themselves after Gadget kind of brought it to where almost where it is today as far as producers and engineers are concerned. But yeah, I did my stint there at Travis. Then once I was done, I kind of made my way around, try to get myself involved in some studios. Never really worked out for myself, and then it's so funny because one of the main softwares that I learned at Trebas was
Mm,
Cubase, and one day I so happened to just be checking a friend of mine's store on Marley,
mhm,
and I seen like this little small shop that actually distributed the software. And this is the first time I'm meeting Ray Williams, another big name
mhm.
within the industry. Um, yeah. So I say that to segue into this was doing software sales for Cubase in Steinberg. We were Steinberg, Canada at that time. Left, came back, and actually before I even came back, before I even left, I was doing engineering out of Above Average Studios, and a lot of common people that we know, some producers that we
Right.
know, I met during there. And the funny thing is that
This is
uh,
Black Creek.
this was about a time, yeah, this is about a time when Reason was coming out. Um, so I went to the studio, brought Reason with me, and I met a young producer by the name of Why Not. Why Not was there, and that was the first time I ever seen Fruity Loops. F was FL Studio now, but back then it was just
Fruity,
straight
right.
Fruity Loops. And a lot of people don't know that Fruity Loops was like shareware. It was like, you could just download that stuff for free, and it wasn't considered pirating because it was
Mm.
shareware. And I remember going
You get it on LimeWire
back to Ray and saying,
or Napster, one of those?
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. You just that. But I think anywhere where any of those peer-to-peer
right,
groups, you could just download it because like it wasn't like you were pirating the
right,
software. It was
right,
shareware, meaning that you could just share it. And I remember going back to Ray and saying, "Yo, you need to see this Fruity Loops. It's sort of like Reason, but not quite like Reason." And then at the time we were doing the producers conferences. I don't know if you
yep,
remember
yep,
that. We were doing the producers conferences for Propeller Heads
mhm,
Reason. I left for about maybe a year or two, went back to work with Ray. And at the time when I went back to work with Ray, that was when I seen that we were now distributing, still at this time, Fruity Loops. I think the version was 4.5, just to show you how
wow,
far back that
wow.
is.
I
Because
remember they had like a
we're at it's at
3.5. I think
3.5.
3.5 is when I started to become familiar with that. This is a thing now. Okay, people are using this Fruity Loop thing. I think it was at 3.5 when I clued into this software thing that kids were using at the time.
Right. So when I went back, I think we were just ending our distribution with FL. Sorry, ending our distribution with Reason, and then Fruit Loops became like the main thing. So I was on the I was the North American ambassador taking care of Canada and in the US as far as getting in contact with store reps, getting in contact with local DJs, getting in contact with local producers and trying to really promote the software. And at this point, it was no longer shareware being sold, but we had a lot of people just pirating the software, just downloading and pirating the software. So my main thing was just to go around and just educating the people why you should actually buy the software as opposed to pirating the software. I mean, I had a hard time because everybody I knew was
Right,
pirating the software back
right.
then, but it was my foray into the whole software world. And then one of the things that, Ray was telling me to do was, well, we gotta get it out there as far as more visual. And then he was like, we're no longer doing a producers conference, but uh tell you what, call this dude. He's running a local beat battle competition. Hook up with him and see what you could do with this whole Fruity Loops thing. So I was like, okay, bet. He passes me the DVD,
Mhm.
and I flip it around, and I see a picture of you
Right.
behind there. And I was like, yo, this is Clifton. I know this dude. He's like, okay, then hook it up. So I don't know if you remember the first phone call that I had and say, yo, I'm working with FL Studio. I keep calling it FL Studio because that's what
Right.
it is now. I'm working with Fruity Loops. And I know you do the beat battling competition. Yo, what's up? So before I go any further, how did you get to that point from leaving Trebus, not becoming an actual
Right.
producer, but now starting something that has become legendary ever since?
Um. Oh man, there's just been a lot of just trying to figure it out. It's the best way I could describe it. Moving around from Toronto back to Scotia for a bit, working, dabbling in a radio station in Halifax, which ironically was 88.1 as well. So it kind of had a ring to it. It's what we grew up in Toronto, 88.1. So it just happened to be the same frequency in Halifax. So I ran a
Wow.
show out there. It was for entrepreneurs actually. It wasn't to do with music. It was promoting entrepreneurship for youth. Won an award doing that, and it just gave me that that kind of opened up my experience being behind the mic and the mixing board at a radio station. So I grew up listening to the Ron Nelsons and the DJ X's. So now I'm behind the same situation. I just chose not to do a music show, but to do a business show. So
Right.
I would
Right.
interview people like Soul Guy, who was the manager of the Rascals, a crew from Vancouver, our West Coast. So just interviewing him and learning about, even though I wasn't in Toronto physically, I'm still learning kind of indirectly what's going on in Vancouver, what's going on in Toronto, Montreal, because I'm interviewing entrepreneurs across Canada, but I'm based in Halifax. Um, and then one day while I was there at the show at the station, I stumbled upon a CD and it brought me right back to Toronto. It was a CD by
Mm,
Juggernaut. I think it was called Everything for a Reason or Everything Happens for a Reason. And there were songs on there that was like, wow, this is just like, he took me back to Toronto. I was right back on Jane Street after listening to that.
right.
Jane Street,
Right.
for those that don't know, Toronto. And it was like, I mean, that in and by itself, it just kind of gave me that feeling because I've been away from the city for about 4 or 5 years at the time, just
Yeah.
working, going to school, things of that nature. And then, I just had that bug to return to Toronto. So, end of 2002, I returned to Toronto. Um, just trying to figure it out, see what's going on. I'm back in the city after 5 years. Um, and one of the things I did do was connect with Point Blank. I knew them from the 90s because one of my peoples is cousins to like three members of the group, um,
Okay.
three brothers in the group. So connected with them, and they had a mixtape out called Top Shatas. So I said, you know what? Let me take this mixtape and see if I can put, because they're in Toronto and they're probably not taking the time to go
Right.
and move their
Right.
CDs out anywhere. So this is kind of the era where CDs were a thing and people were selling them out the trunk, selling them on the block, stores were selling them. That was the era, selling CDs, selling DVDs. That was a thing. So I took a whole bunch of their CDs and just start pushing them in the outlying areas of Toronto, your Kitchener's, your Barrie, your Hamilton, your St. Catharines, your Windsor, Peterborough, just going to all these smaller towns outside of the immediate Toronto area and just dropping them off. Some would buy them cash up
Right.
front, or some of them would be on consignment, whatever it was. But just to get my feet in the scene and just to get in the mix of what's going on. And that was like the hardest group at the time for me that I heard coming out of Toronto at the time. So I
Mm,
just, it was an honor to push them and also have that connection to them before hip hop, before rap, just street kind of stuff. Um, So yeah, doing that, and as at the same time that I'm doing that, I'm getting a feel for what's going on in all these different little towns, and how they view Toronto. It's like, because I look at it, I most people in Toronto stick to Toronto, at least especially in that period of time. You didn't really spend time unless you had a relative. You had no reason to go to those out of the immediate Toronto area. So you didn't really go to like
Right, right.
a St. Catharines unless you're going to Niagara Falls. You didn't go to a Windsor unless you're crossing the border to Detroit. Like you didn't have a reason to go to these places. So it gave me a
Yeah,
reason to get out and just explore and just hit the road and just see what's out there and learn from them. And they were learning from me because they didn't know what was going on in Toronto either. So they're looking to me like, well, what's the new thing out of Toronto? What's the hot thing? Here it is, point blank.
right.
So that was kind of like my way of getting back in the mix, getting back in the scene. And then I tried to do some marketing stuff with them. Didn't quite pan out, but again, it's all about just trying to figure it out because at this time Toronto was still unheard of. Nobody outside of Toronto, outside of Canada, really is looking for Toronto or checking for Toronto. It's pretty much just a tour stop. You're on tour doing whatever,
Yeah,
and you have to make a stop in Canada. All right, let's do Toronto. They might do Montreal and Vancouver, but Toronto's a guaranteed spot for sure. So, and that's pretty much all
right,
Toronto was, a tour stop for most artists. So going from that stage, it's like I had that burning desire that I want to contribute something back to the culture or do something more for the culture. Point Blank was cool helping them with the mixtape on that level, but I wanted to do more to the culture, give more of a contribution, and just see it grow more because it was pretty stagnant at that time. Like this is like '03, '04. There wasn't a lot going on
right.
in Toronto. Like Toronto, like, we're past the Circle era, we're past like the Maestro and Mishimi and Dream Warriors era. Not to say they're not relevant, but at that time, that wasn't really happening. That wasn't really the thing happening. I think the biggest hit record we had in that era would be Cardi's song Dangerous. That was like the biggest kind
Right,
of thing
right,
that I
right.
could think of that was kind of in that era. That was like the biggest thing. Um,
And just so people know, this is we finally got a commercial radio station. So this is during the era of
ah, yeah,
Flow.
yeah. Can't forget that. Yeah, I mean, Flo. I mean, I was one of the foot soldiers for Flo. Like in the before Flo got on the
Hmm.
radio, I used to be one of the volunteers for Denim Jolly, who was the businessman behind that. Milestone Communications was like a small grassroots self-funded initiative that he was doing from St. Clair West. And I would just go with a petition up and down Jane Street on a bus and get people to sign in support of this black
Right,
radio station. And this is like late 90s, 96, 97 era. And then a couple years later came to be, and we had our own black owned commercial station with Flow 93.5. But yeah, so in that era, so as I'm saying, there's not really a lot going on like '03, '04. It was kind of like a gray area for Toronto. Like something was coming, but we didn't really know what was coming. And it just wasn't a lot happening in Toronto at the time. It wasn't really, we were too caught up in the G Unit and the Dipset era, and that was kind of the thing at that time. But as
right,
far as
right,
our
right.
own sound, we didn't really have much going on in Toronto in that period of time. So it was around 2004 that I kind of looked around and did a survey of the scene and seen like, okay, well, there's already rap competitions going on. There's already MC battles. There's already DJ battles. There's already sound clashes. There's already poetry clashes, or what they call it. So everything was kind of catered to. There was something for everybody, and
Yeah,
I didn't really want to jump on someone else's bandwagon. If you're running the DJ thing, do that. DMC was
right, right.
basically the main ones doing that. So the DMC battles, sound clashes, a gazillion of those. So everybody had something for them. I didn't really see how I could fit in any of those. So I seen, okay, well, the one area that I don't see nobody messing with is producers. You know,
Mm,
everybody's kind of has their lane filled, but for some reason, for some wild reason, nobody has something going on for producers. And for those outside of the city who don't know, a lot of stuff in Canada is government funded. There's a lot of grants and funding for arts or anything to do with arts. I didn't even know that at the initial stage. I come to find out about that later on, but um,
right.
a lot of the stuff had funded was being funded. So when you see like someone doing a tour or putting out a video or putting out an album, you might see it in the small print or you might not, but behind the
Right.
scenes, it's all being funded by government grants. Governments are giving people money to do this
Right.
stuff. Um, but even with that being said, producers still weren't getting none of that. So a producer was it was just like
Mm.
the stepchild of the industry. You know, they were just like you might hear them, but you never see them. They didn't have a platform. They weren't getting no grant money, so they were just kind of on their own, stuck at home, stuck in mom's basement,
Yeah.
stuck wherever. They're just out on their own. So it's like, you know what? Let me jump in that field and dabble in that, and I'll just throw a stone out there in the water and see if it ripples or not. But that's kind of the reason why BBM came to be. It was just basically trying to find my own lane where nobody else was catering to, and that happened to be it. Did the first battle, and it just went from there.
That first battle, were there any producers that you could say already had a name locally that was there that kind of made it like an official thing, or was it just like we're all hungry, nobody has a name at this point, we want to make something for ourselves?
Um, there was only one producer I heard of. I believe he was in that first battle. Was oh man, Smokey. My bad, Smokey. So Smokey, he has a long he kind of dabbled more into dancehall. Like he was working with, I believe it was Alkaline, when Alkaline first before anybody heard of Alkaline. I think he was already
Right.
working with Alkaline. He's done tracks with Capleton. I think he's done stuff with like a good amount of reggae artists. So he was more, he come from hip hop, but he more went the reggae side. So a lot of people from that era would know about Smokey Smoke Shop up in Brampton. So he might have been the only person that I had heard of that was in the first one. Nobody else. I had never heard anybody from Night or Day. I had no idea who anybody was. So they range from 18 years old to 28. Some might have been even in their 30s, but I never heard of none of them.
Right, right. So okay, so you do the first competition. Do you it's been 20 odd years. Do you remember the first winner?
Yeah, there was three winners. We had three categories the first battle. So it was a smooth category,
Three categories.
party category, and the grimy category. What most people come to know BBM as now is everybody for themselves. 32 producers on stage at the final main event, and the last man, the best man, or the best woman stand and wins. But in that time, it
Right.
was split up into three categories. So you didn't win the whole battle; you just won for your category. You might have been the winner of the smooth category, party category, or the grimy category. Grimy meaning you're underground, dirty, dusty, Mob Deep kind of, Wu Tang kind of, boot camp kind of flavor.
Right,
So
right,
that
right.
was kind of like the three categories. So a winner, a producer only won in their specific category. There was no one winner takes all. In the first
Mm.
3 years, it was just like that. Then after that, we condensed it to just one winner takes all.
So okay, we now are in the third year. The format changes. Is this when you start to feel like, okay, this is something? It's taking on almost like a life of its own, or was it, or was it when you got your first producer to get a real placement to say, okay, we're doing something here?
Well, as far as the changes, every event we tried to change or add or evolve, or no two events, we didn't go into any two events the same mentality. It was always like, okay, let's add something, let's
Okay.
change something, let's fix something, let's enhance something. Every event we went through that process. So from the very first one to the second one, it was location. The first one was in Mississauga, which is like outside of the Toronto core city, is like the suburbs west of the city. So the second battle was downtown in the core of Toronto. So that was one major
Right.
change. We also incorporated a live aspect to it. So it's not just bring your beat on a CD. It's now let's see you make it live on the spot. So the finalists for
Mm.
each category. So if you're in the smooth category and there was like 8 producers, when it got down to the final 2, you had to make the beat live on the spot. I think you had 10 or 15 minutes. You both had the Triton keyboard, you both had the MPC, and you both had a laptop. Choose your poison, make your beat 15 minutes live in front of the crowd, and then we're going to burn it on a CD and play it for the crowd. But we're going to watch you make it.
Right.
Everything was
Right. Right.
preloaded, so the samples were all the same. You have the same keyboard, you have the same MPC. Strangely, nobody used the hardware. So that was a
Mm,
shift right there. It's like we went and got all this stuff from Long and McQuaid, the keyboard, the MPC, and they didn't even touch that. They just went straight to software. So that was, kind of like showing us, okay, something is changing. Although we heard it the first
of
battle, we
course.
weren't really studying too much about equipment the first battle. It was just like, let's see what happens. But after the first battle, then it becomes, oh, okay, so there's not just a change in who's out there or seeing who's out there, but now we're seeing a shift in the culture as well from the analog to the digital
Right.
thing. So that was a change for the second one. We also try to incorporate a lot of elements into it. So we had like a DJ segment, we had a breakdance segment, we had a rap segment. So we were just trying to incorporate all elements of hip hop into this beat battle for the second one, hitting Toronto for the first time. Um, so that was the second one. We actually ran out of time for that battle, so we had to bring it online or on air, I should say, on a radio show, the Project Bounce. So we finished that second battle on Project Bounce,
Really, I didn't know
CIUT
that.
89.5. And that's again another step up. So now we're going from a small
Yeah.
club in Mississauga. Now we're going to downtown Toronto in the core. Now we're going on the air. So now it's broadcasted to thousands of people who can all hear this battle go over the air. So that battle, you have people like Junior T, Just Shine, Boy Wonder. Um, I can't remember everybody in that battle, but those are some of the names that were in that battle.
Now, was that the first year that Boy Wonder
This
entered,
is the
or
second battle. This is the second battle.
second battle? Okay.
So yeah, so that was CIUT, Master Project Bounce show, and then so that was kind of like 2.5. Two got shut down early, so that was kind of like 2.5. And then part three, the thing with part three, so the first two battles we didn't really have. Our goal was to try to get a venue where you can visually see the producer. So the first battle, it was kind of like they were all stationed in the back in like a kitchen. There was a kitchen right behind the stage, the DJ booth. So we called them from the kitchen and
Right.
they'd come out one by one. But we wanted to have it like, like a sound clash. You're seeing both sounds or both DJs or both MCs together face to face. So the
Right.
first battle, we couldn't have that because the venue wasn't structurally built for that. It was just a DJ booth. The second battle, it was in the daytime and it didn't have a stage. It was just kind of like a lounge area that we made a stage. So again, you just didn't have that battle look to it. The
Right.
third the
Right.
third venue, again, we had a little bit of a like a area for the producers, but it was kind of like the first one where you kind of just have one at a time. So it didn't have. So
Yeah.
the fourth venue, we finally got that at El Macombo, where you now have a proper stage. Both are standing face to face, like a proper battle is supposed to happen. So, if they want
Yeah.
to taunt each other on or whatever, you see both of them visually. If you hear their name or if you hear their beat and you like a beat, you now have a direct face to who you're hearing it from. It
Right.
was
Right.
always a
Right.
mystery kind of like before that because it wasn't set up right and you didn't have the stage wasn't right. But now you have both producers. You hear producer one, you hear producer two. Okay, that's so and so. That's so and so. I like his beat. Let me holler at him after the battle. So that's what we wanted to have, like that visual presentation to the battle. Not just hearing a beat and not knowing who the producer is, or he walks right by you, don't even know that was the guy that just played the beat. Now you see it, you hear it, you like it, you can connect, make the contact, and artists can connect with producers connect with artists and whatnot. And that was kind of the idea going into that fourth battle. But on top of that fourth battle, we also expanded it from just Toronto, because we usually have Toronto judges, like in-house Toronto judges, keeping the budget tight. But this time we went out a little
Right.
bit, and we had Shot Claire, who's like a foundational Toronto artist. We had DJ Grouch, a foundational DJ in the city. And then we went and got DJ Law Mathematics from Wu-Tang Clan.
Mm.
So I couldn't afford RZA. That would be the ideal pick. But the next
Right.
best
Right.
thing would
Right.
be DJ Law Mathematics, who did some great work on like Ghostface.
So he was the
He's the
first
first
international
international
judge.
judge. So that was part
Okay.
four. So it's
Okay.
like, okay, we got the venue, not the best venue in the world, but it fit. It fit
Right.
the culture. It fit BBM perfectly at that time. So we got the stage we wanted. Um, He was stepping it up with the judges. So that just brings a whole different level to the game. Like, okay, you got Wu-Tang on the flyer. Like, okay, this is not Little Toronto Beat Battle anymore. This is a different thing. So you're attracting a different caliber of producers now. Like some top-notch producers are coming out. The
Right.
judges are official. We added a remix competition, a remix battle to the category. So you had party, you had smooth, you had grimy, and now we had a remix, which we did in honor of Jay Dilla because he had recently passed, I think a year or two before that. So
Mm,
we were just trying to my usual way of thinking of like this. Let's bring as much as we can to for the people, for the whole presentation of the show. Um,
at this point, sorry to mean to cut you, but at this point, were any of the producers who were either participating or maybe even have won in the past battles, have any of them start to like make their way into like the industry itself,
Um,
or
this
was it
is this
still
is
kind of
'06, so yes, 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 and no. Well, yes, I'll say yes. By this battle, um, well, at this battle, we had put out a documentary DVD, so it kind of like covered the video of the first three battles. So we now have like the
got it?
storyline is being told real time while we're living it. We're filming and documenting this, the start of it, how it started, who was there, how it went, and stuff like that. Um, so this battle also had Drake come out. So I had heard this song on the radio, "Do What You Do," that Drake did, Boy Wonder produced.
Right,
Now, in
right,
my mind, and I'm sure most people in Toronto's mind, Boy Wonder on a street level was more known than Drake was because we knew Drake only as from Degrassi as an actor, and I didn't even know that show Degrassi. I knew the first generation of Degrassi because I went to school with some
right.
people from that show.
Shout out to
Shout out to
Dial.
Dio. I went to school with him. So I was familiar with that era of Degrassi. I wasn't aware of Drake's generation of Degrassi. I kind of like lost touch with it. But anyway, I heard him
Right.
on a song that Boy Wonder had produced called Do What You Do. And growing up in like the Run DMC, Houdini, UTFO era, LL era, it's like the drums sounded exactly like that era. But we're in
Yeah.
2006. So I'm thinking like, all right, I know every voice of Toronto artist at the time. Like, I don't matter if you're from Scarborough, West End, downtown. I pretty much know the sound of every rapper by voice. I know, okay, that's so and so from Flemo, that's so and so from Regent, that's so and so from Rexdale, that's so and so. But I never heard this voice before. So it's like, okay, it's a Boy Wonder beat. The beat is catching me because it's locking into my childhood sound. Like Larry, a producer named Larry Smith, who was like
Right.
one of the brains behind that whole sound. But I'm trying to figure out, like, at the time in 2005, 6, we were gravitating more to like the 90s, like trying to recreate the Wu-Tang, trying to recreate the Mobb Deep. We were going through that phase of like trying to create that. Like, if we can make what they made, then that was dope for us. And that's what a
Right.
lot of the producers were doing. They were coming up with like their version, their rendition of a Mobb Deep, or their rendition of even a Ninth Wonder or Just Blaze. They're just emulating who they grew up idolizing. So our first crop of producers were emulating all those producers: the Just Blazes, the Swizzies, the Dre, Neptunes, what have you, Premieres and what have you. But this sound was from the 80s, and that's what caught my attention. It's like, okay, why is this guy sounding like, why is he making a beat from the 80s? No one was doing that. Everybody was trying to emulate that
Right.
90s or even to the Dipset or G Unit, but they went and dabbled into the 80s. So that immediately caught my attention. And it was like, yo, Wonder, I don't know who that rapper is, but bring him to the battle and let him perform. Come to find out it was Drake. So when he came there,
Mm,
I mean, I just remember this tall kid walking with Wonder. There's like maybe a crew, like 10 of them coming to the front door. Um, and I really didn't know who he was. I didn't know nothing about him as an actor with Degrassi at the time. I just didn't know who he was. I knew he seemed uncomfortable because he was a little bit out of his element
yeah.
because BBM was a very
Yeah.
hood kind of event. Like, people were coming with their whole block with them. If Region Dudes is coming, it's coming like 5, 10 deep. Jungle's coming like 10, 20 deep. Jane Strip people 5, 10 deep. Scarborough 10, 20 deep. So people are coming with their whole block to support them on stage. So you have a crowd to
Right.
back you up
Right.
when you get on stage. So I could see he was kind of out of his element. He didn't really seem that comfortable, but when it was his time to perform, I didn't really do the, hey, everybody coming to the stage, we got Drake. I just kind of like, here, gave him the microphone and
Let him
let
do
him
his
do his
thing.
thing. So he was kind of like shy coming to the mic, but he finally kind of warmed up to the crowd. He did a freestyle, played a song that him and the Clips did, Pusha T and whatnot, because anybody in Toronto in that era, it was always a thing to get that US cosign. You know, Mishimi did it with
Right.
KRS-One, BDP, and from there it's been just a normal thing. Like if you get that US cosign, you get Kane stamping it, or you get Wu Tang stamping it, or you get BDP, KRS-One stamping it. That was what we need. That's what we wanted, and that's what Toronto respected because it's just, you're coming from the screw
Yeah, that was
validation. You're coming
validation.
from the screw face capital, so you got to do something to make these screw face mothers effers, rate you and give you that respect, or even listen to you, because they'll
Right.
just quickly shut you down, So that was his way of kind of
Right.
like warming up to the crowd, getting that acceptance for those that don't know him as an actor and just never heard of him. It's like, well, who is this guy? Why is he on stage rapping? And we're here to see a beat battle. You got Wu Tang here, you got this one and that one. Who is this dude?
Now, was he the first performance ever,
That
or
was his first performance as a rapper.
okay? So okay, it was his first performance as a
Right.
rapper, but as far as BBM was concerned, was that the first performance? Like, because
Oh,
I
okay.
mean,
No,
you,
no, no. We had Aristo perform. Those guys
okay,
later became a little feud going on with Aristo and Drake and whatnot. But before that feud, Aristo would perform. His crew called the Offense. So a rapper named Littles, Cali Snipes. There's a few other
mm,
rappers. I don't know if Richie Sosa might have performed back then, but a lot of producers, just homegrown talent at that point. So the first battle
right,
never had. I think just Aristo might have performed the first one, if I can remember correctly. The second one, I think Aristo, Cali Snipes, and all them did their thing. The third one, I don't think we had any rappers perform. No, actually, we did. Mayhem Moriarty performed at the third one. So yeah, we had local artists perform at each battle, but the fourth one
okay,
was Drake's first performance as a rapper. It was March
yeah,
2006. And then came after that, he would go on to do like Ice Cube. He opened up for Ice Cube, and I think he did Sound Academy. So he started to become more of a name after that. But his very first documented performance as a rapper was BBM, March 2006.
was BBM. And again, you said, I mean, this is his first time, performing on a stage. He looked kind of nervous. Did you see at that point? I mean, knowing what he was doing with the "Do What You Do" on the Boy Wonder beat, did you say to yourself, "This guy might be doing some damage later on," or was he still kind of
Well,
like
he was getting played
a
in the
local
club. It was
artist?
hard. Local artists, it was still a fight to even get played in the club from Toronto. Like a few artists,
Right,
like
right,
Mayhem was getting played. But it was still a fight. That's what Project Balance was so relevant, because they were giving, at least you're getting heard on the radio,
right,
because it was
right.
just a fight. Like you're not, you're dope in your neighborhood, you're making a name for yourself. But as far as going to a club and hearing it, that was a different step. Like to hear a Toronto artist in a club was a different step. So we weren't
Yeah.
really getting a lot of that. You might get like a Cardi song played, but an underground rapper that's making noise is not getting played in the club. We're coming from the era. 2005 was Toronto, the year of the gun in Toronto. We had a DVD come out
Mm,
called The Real Toronto. So it was just exposing the neighborhoods in Toronto and what's really going on in the hoods and all the different hoods in the city. So it was kind of kind of a dangerous time period. What was going on in the city at the time. There was a shooting of a young lady named Jane Kreba. So that and that led to a whole new police task force being created. So the streets were sticky at the time. Things were
right,
hot. A lot of stuff was
right.
happening. So it was hard to get played in clubs, and you couldn't even get clubs. That's a whole nother story of us. The challenge of even getting a club, getting a venue, was a whole
Yeah,
nother
yeah.
story of itself. But going back to Drake, it was I remember hearing that song on the radio, and I remember hearing it in clubs. So that was of anything, that was the thing to me that said, okay, not so much that I think he's going somewhere, but he's being played in the club. And that right there is like a
Right,
quantum leap. Like he's doing something that nobody else, hardly very few people are doing. So that automatically gets your
right.
attention just based on that alone. But as far as knowing that, yeah, this is the guy that's going to take it to the next level, no idea.
Mm, mm. Okay, so okay, what about Boy Wonder then? So after he wins his first battle, and he kind of gets his notoriety for doing the Drake song, and now he's producing for some other artists locally. But then he gets his big break with, um, I think was it Eminem? Was that his first big break or
Um, well, I'll start my story of Boy Wonder started from his very first battle, because from his very first battle is when he got the confidence to even know that this is possible. Because
right,
he's 18, he's going up against dudes that are 28, 30, 32. They are talking about Triton keyboards and MPCs, and he don't know nothing about that. He just knows Fruity Loops. So it starts from that
right,
point where he builds the confidence, because when everyone else came with their whole block to the battle, he just came with an uncle, and he doesn't
mm,
know what these guys are talking about, SASR and 12 this on. He doesn't know what none of this equipment is. He just knows Fruity Loops,
yeah,
and he don't know if he's good. He don't know if he's garbage. Most people come with their chest out. They got the whole block with them. They're ready. He doesn't
right,
have any of that, and you can see it in him when he comes up. He's just like this humble kid. And it's not until he gets the crowd's approval then he starts poking his chest out a little bit. So that was his
right,
validation. Like,
right,
oh, okay, you are good. And the thing that made him
yeah,
good was the fact that every producer kind of catered to a specific demographic. So if you were a younger person, I wouldn't even say you're younger, but you're producing for the younger crowd. Like there was kind of like the ear for the younger crowd, which is more like the trap kind of sound, and then the old heads want to hear the boom bap. So many producers were
right,
coming; they were kind of catering to an age group, consciously or unconsciously. That's what they were playing was being um, cheered on by a specific age group. So either the young guys were
got
feeling
it,
you or the older guys were feeling you. Nobody was getting that unanimous feeling except
right. There
Wonder.
wasn't an
There
in
was no in
between.
between. Wonder was the only one that hit it right on the nail, right on the head. Once you heard him, it was like, because I stood in the crowd. I was in the crowd when he was playing his beat. And for some reason, I looked to this side, the younger guys were feeling it. I looked to that side, the older heads were feeling it. And it's like, okay, he got it. He got the sound. For whatever
Mhm.
reason, everybody unanimously, because they had that definite feeling. If you weren't good, you're gonna feel it. You're gonna hear it, or you're gonna feel the
Right,
tension in the room.
right,
But for him, it was just unanimous across the room. Everybody made noise. Everybody cheered it on. There was no debating on, oh, that's just young, that's just old. It's like no, everybody unanimously was like thumbs up. And that was the first point where you kind of see him like, okay, throwing the gun fingers up, like, okay, I'm getting that validation, I'm getting that feedback, so I am good. And once he got
nice.
that, second battle he won, third battle he won. Now you're hearing about him. You're seeing in our local magazine, Urbanology. You're hearing him on Project Bounce. He became a household name on the street level. Like artist wise, hip hop wise, every artist wanted to have a Boy Wonder beat. you
Either
know,
boy
and
wonder
that
beat.
and that kind of grew. So
Right,
that whole '05, '06, '07, and even '06, just to go back to the Drake thing. So that obviously Do What You Do helped. Um, '07, he did the song with Trey Songs, Replacement Girl with T minus, another
right.
producer from the platform.
Another big name.
So that's when it started to move. So from his very first battle, it's just been like onward progression from a street level to producing for everybody locally in Toronto, to Drake, to Trey Songs, to Cardi featuring Dr. Dre in the clips.
Mm,
That would be the turning point in my mind. That Because
okay,
that was the
okay,
point for me. It was like, you know what? I think we've took BBM to where it needs to be, and now these guys can take it from here. Because we just wanted to
right,
give them a
right,
platform where they could get popping in Toronto. If they could get popping in Ontario, great. If they could get popping across Canada, icing on the cake. Popping in the US from this little humble grassroots event, that was the furthest thing
right.
from my mind. Like this is all coming out of my pocket though. There's no grants, there's no funding, there's no it will pay for this. This is coming out of my pocket. So for me to say like this is just an idea I had, I'm putting this up out of my pocket, and now we're gonna be producing for Dr. Dre like that. Who could even think of something like that happening? So even Trey Songs didn't really hit me that hard because it was like, I wasn't really a big Trey Songz fan in that time. He was young, he was new, he was R&B. He was more like kitty. He
Right,
was more
right,
like
right,
kitty R&B to me. My
right.
generation would be like hearing him produce for R. Kelly or something like that, or Genuine, or some bigger artists like that at that time. But Trey Songz is coming
Yeah,
like the next generation, so it didn't really hit me any kind of way. But when he produced for Cardi, Set It Off remix with Dr. Dre on it, that was like a light bulb in my head. Like, okay, what's happening now? Like, what's really going on now? How is Dr. Dre
Yeah.
on a song that Boy Wonder produced? We just discovered Boy Wonder like
Yeah.
yesterday, and now this is like that was a turning point for me, even before the Drake stuff, because Drake didn't really take off yet. This is before Drake took off. But at this point, it's
Right.
like, well, there's nothing we could offer someone like this now. Like if he's already producing for, has Dr. Dre on his credits as BBM, we're giving you like
Yeah.
college tuition. If you win, you get free tuition to like Centennial College. Like that was one of the prizes we had as a sponsor, so they can learn about business contracts, publishing, and whatnot. Or you're getting bragging rights, you're getting some media coverage, you might get some cash, you
Yeah.
might get a trophy.
But he was
He
beyond
was
all of
beyond
that
all
at
that.
this
So like,
point.
what can we offer someone?
Yeah.
Like, so my job is done
Right.
because it's like I just wanted you to
Yeah.
get to that point, and you went beyond that point quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, all right, I'm ready to fall back. Like, I got young ones in the house, kids now. It's like, you know what? I'm ready to just fall back. Because that first 4 years was like nonstop. It was just like battle. The second battle, the first one was in March, second one was in May, third one was in August. So we were like knocking them out back to back while we're figuring this all out.
Mhm.
It's not like we had a game plan
Right.
and we knew the industry and knew publishing and knew venue. We didn't know nothing. So I'm doing this trial and error, learning as I go, make a mistake, fix it on the next one. But this is like back to back. So even when we did the one with mathematics and all that, like the planning that went into that and the planning that went into the follow up one, like it takes a lot out of you when you're still working your
Yeah.
day
Yeah. Of
job, you're
course.
raising
Of course.
kids. I'm living out in the west in like Peel region at the time, so you're commuting back and forth from Toronto. It wasn't as much. It was still just a very hands-on environment, as opposed to just emailing
Right.
beats here, and it was still very much hands-on. So you had to physically be places and physically do things, and it was just exhausting. So after 4 years of that, I kind of um, justified it by saying, well, in music and in life in general, most good things have a 4 year run. Whether you're an artist,
Right.
whether
Right.
you're a new event, whether you're a clothing line, whether you're a hot barber that just opened up, like most things seem to have a good 4 year run and then it just kind of tapers off or something better comes along. So that's how I rationalized in my mind. You know what? We had a good 4 year run. We did our job. We helped producers bust. I'm ready to fall back. So in '09, well, yeah, '08 we did the last. '08 is '07 is the first battle we did 32-man standing. So the battle we did with Drake and Mathematics, that was the last battle we did with all the categories. After that, I scrapped the
Okay.
categories in 2007,
32
32
men.
man and woman. Because we started to get females.
Battle
We
Royale.
started to get females coming in. I think well, she went by a few names. NJ, then she changed it to She the God, then she changed it to Blank. I'm not sure what she goes by now, but I think it's still Blank. So she was the first female in the battle. So she was in there like '07, I think she started. I was the first
Right.
female to ever jump on the platform. But yeah, so we did '07. Rick Notes won that. '08, we came back. Big Pops won that. And then that's at the point where it's like, at the same time that's happening, Boy Wonder is doing the Dr. Dre joint. So we did the Dr. Dre joint. We're at 2008, the second 32-man standing battle royal. And it's at that point where it's like, you know what, I'm ready to fall back. We did 5, 6, 7, 8, a good 4 year run, and then while we're taking that hiatus, Drake drops So Far Gone and Best I Ever Had. He drops Best I Ever Had and Forever while we're in that little hiatus
Right.
period. So we're at a Boy Wonder party. He has a birthday party. This is '09, October, somewhere. I can't remember his exact. I think it's October 14th or something like that. So we have a party for his birthday party, celebrating the success. Best I Ever Had is the biggest thing, Forever, biggest thing. And it's at that party where it's like, you know what, I'm looking around and it's almost like a BBM reunion because you're seeing all the producers from BBM. And it's like,
Right.
I didn't formally announce that I was like stepping away or, I'm falling back, but they just noticed that there wasn't a battle that year because '09 it would have been like
Right.
August or
Right.
something, and now we're in October, and they're seeing me and they're looking at me with the side face like, "What's up? Like, where's the battle at?" You
So
know, they don't know. Like mentally, I'm already checked out. Like in my mind, I'm
yeah,
already
yeah,
like
yeah,
I'm on hiatus. I'm not even hiatus. I'm just I fell back at the time, you know. But I didn't.
yeah. Because I remember calling you and I was like, "Yo, like, what's up? I need to do this Fruity
Right,
Loops thing." I'm like, and I'm excited now
right,
because I know what the software is doing, and I know what people are using the software, and I'm like, okay, I could really make some damage as far as getting some promotions because these guys were local, like, and I knew, I knew these guys, or I could get close
right.
to these guys. So when I found out that you were doing it, I was like, I hit you up, and he's like, I kind of took a break. I was like, no, no,
Right,
no, no, no,
right,
you got to get back
right,
in. You got
right,
to get
right,
back
right. So
in.
that was the vibe
So
in that
it was
event.
dope.
That was the event that was like it was me and Adrian was there. So me and Adrian, we hadn't seen each other in like several months. You know, he's like my right hand
Okay.
in the early days. So it was like I haven't even seen him in a few months because I was just like taking a break from everything. So even seeing him and just the vibe, like the like wow, like okay, this song is like really going to the roof. I think the video was already out, so now you're seeing like LeBron and Eminem and Kanye and Lil Wayne on a song with Drake that Boy Wonder produced. Is like this is not even
Right.
making sense to me. This is just like a dream at this point in time. Like how and not only that, the venue that we were at 4 years ago, I was handing out flyers at that venue, and people were looking at the flyer and throwing it away. Like, what beat battle? Like, at
Mm,
that exact same venue, I was handing flyers out to people, and some people were like throwing that shit away. And now 4 years later, we're here celebrating Boy Wonder's birthday with best I ever had in forever. So all of that is playing, and he rolls up
crazy.
in a limousine with a bunch of friends. So like, just the whole scenery is just like, wow, like this is what we did in 4 years. You know, like just to help contribute to this whole thing. Like, you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
Drake wouldn't have even come across Boy Wonder had it not been for BBM. Like nobody would have. You know,
Right.
that's where we got
Right.
started. So to see like and I had a dude come up to me um at the event. It's like, yo, man, if this wasn't for you, bro, nothing would have just be possible. In his words, he said basically that, but in his words, and it was like, you know, I just gave him a pound and kept it moving. I ain't trying to get big headed or nothing, but it was just like
Right.
it was just like that wow moment. Like, wow, this is really happening. Like an idea you just had out of your mind, and next thing you know, one thing leads to another, and here we are. You got like the biggest record in the world, you know, with the biggest artist in the world on your video, in the video, and just celebrating that moment, you know, and just kind of taking it in. And it was like, as I said, looking at all the producers, and they're looking at me sideways, like, when's the next battle? Like, I want to be the next Boy Wonder. You know, I'm just as good as him, or I battled him, or whatever they might be thinking, but they all want a piece of it. And you can see it, you can feel it. They're not saying it to
Right.
you. No
Right.
one's saying when's the next battle, but you're reading it in their eyes. You know, the body language.
You're
The
seeing
body
it. You're
language is
seeing it.
totally like, yo, what's up? When's the next battle? And it was like at that moment, it was like, okay, we're gonna have to bring this back. You know, we're gonna have to bring this back. So
So now you bring it back. This was the first time Boy Wonder comes back as a
yeah,
judge.
it's a whole different ball game now. So
Right.
the stakes are totally different. You know, when you're getting maybe like 30 producers signing up, 50 producers, now you're getting hundreds of producers. 2010, we're in a bigger venue because our venues,
Not just
not just
locally.
locally, like our winner for that year came from
Yeah.
Amsterdam, a female who came from Amsterdam. So that right there was like, okay, this it's a whole different ball game. So our venue is double the size now. So we went from El Macambo 400 capacity to Opera House, which is like 900 capacity. So the venue changed. That was our staple since then till now. That always been like our 15-year
Right.
staple. So we changed venues. Wonder is no longer a producer. Not well, he's a producer, but now he's a judge as opposed to a contestant. Um, the
Right.
floodgates are wide open to everybody. So anybody from anywhere is now registering. Um, and technology has changed. So as opposed to someone having to pay in person, or I can't even remember how they were paying in the first years. I've been thinking about that the other day. Like, how do people pay for registration? Because we didn't have PayPal in the very beginning, but it came along later.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
even have like 2010 records of who registered in 2010. But it's like
Wow.
But it's like just the technology changing. Like, okay, so now you can just see everybody who produced, what their real name is, what their producer name is. So you have like 1985 who went on to produce for Drake. Like you got him, and I got him in my 2010 records of names of producers that just came through. And it's just so many names, but it was just a changing point. 2010 it was a whole different thing. So the caliber of producers changed, the regions they were coming in from changed, the caliber of judges changed, although mathematics was still our first international. Um, and then we had a dude from he created his own production machine called the Beat Thang. So we had the founder of Beat Thang
Right,
came,
right.
he was a judge, and a member of Urbanology was a judge. So those were the three judges. But just a bigger stage, the best stage you can have with the best sound system you can have. Everything was just in place. The DJ booths were proper, the spacing for the judges, the spacing for the host to just, move around comfortably. The stage
Yeah,
was full of people, industry people, or just, crew people of, people's producers
yeah.
crews.
For me, that became like the
That was the
blueprint
blueprint.
going on to the rest
Right,
of the
right. And other
battles.
battles, like other
Yeah,
people who created battles, that was their blueprint as well. Like that visual look of how we
right,
set it up was the blueprint that other people emulated and did their own battles and whatnot. But that was home. Like Opera House was home. This is the format, this is the formula. And it just went from there. But that was definitely the turning point. That was the welcome back point, but it was also a turning point. So Boy Wonder took off. Everybody's watching him now. It's not just Toronto producers now. All over the world, producers are like, how do I get in his shoes? How do I become a producer like him? Drake is taking off as an artist. So any success story, people are going to do their research and find out, okay, well, who's the people behind this person? So Boy Wonder's name is going to come up. Or
right.
who's Boy Wonder? Where did he come from? PBM's name's going to come up. And it just kind of grew like that. As Drake became bigger, Boy Wonder became bigger. And then a whole gang of producers just came up after him, from your Seven Thomases to your T Minuses to your Wonder Girls to your 1985 to your Francis Got Heat, yada, 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 yada. But 2020 is when that all expanded to become, what it would grow to be.
Hmm. So I mean, yeah, and you mentioned some producers who, you're right, have made their name in the industry. Um, when did you think to yourself that, okay, this is now going to be the stomping ground, the prove yourself for those who are going to become Grammy producers, Billboard charting producers, platinum producers? Like, when did you start seeing that?
I guess with Do What You Do, not Do, I'm sorry, with Best I Ever Had in Forever. That was like, as I said, seeing LeBron, and like at that time, those were like top tier entertainers in the world,
Right, right,
top basketball player, top rapper. Like that was like the cream of the crop all in one video. Lil Wayne, Kanye, Eminem, LeBron, like nobody was doing that, much less Drake. Like nobody else was doing that kind of thing, bringing all that together in one video. So that was kind of like the turning point. Like it was out of here after that. So from there, and then shortly after that, T minus starts dropping for like DJ Khaled. I'm on one, another monster hit. So at that point, you're seeing like, wow, okay, it's kind of a lot to process, because you're thinking of like just yesterday they were just trying to fight to get in a battle. You know what I mean? Like I literally have
right,
some
right,
producers that were almost like begging to get in a battle, and now they're Grammy. Not even the ones I mentioned already, the other ones. Like there's a long list of producers. Some of them have changed their names over the years, so we know them as this, and then they blew up and they changed their name. But they all started off at the same place. It's just a shitload of producers that came out of the platform. Boy Wonder was like the one that set it off, but then everyone just followed suit. And it's
right,
just
right.
it's just been a long, long laundry list of names that came after that. We're just trying to follow in his shoes, his footsteps.
So now you've garnered all of this success, as far as I mean, we have to say it's got to be the biggest beat battle competition in the world, bar none. Um, it's pretty much produced the most platinum
For
plaque
sure.
producers, the most Billboard
For
charting
sure.
producers. and again, these names are now infamous within the hip hop community, working with some of the biggest
I
names.
say they had a 15-year run. I would say from '09, 10 to like 24, 25 is like a 15-year run of just dominating Billboard, dominating like Grammy awards, all kind of awards, Soul Train, ASCAP, um, music video awards. Just a 15-year run of domination, Billboards, Grammys, charts, all of that, you know? So I think, as I mentioned, Boy Wonder, T Minus, and Wonder Girl seem to get the most attention, but there is a long list of other producers out there. Like I said, Seven Thomas. Um, I'm getting brain fog, but there's a lot of names. Pops,
This guy, he had a
there's
little run too.
Pops. There's so many names, man. There's a lot of names, but Nino, he was in there. Um, Jordan Manswell has some records. There's so many names. I have to sometimes write it down or Google it. But there's a lot of names. It's not like I think about these names every day, but when I have to think about them, there's a
Yeah,
long
yeah.
there's a long list. Bajan Amir, he was a producer in 2014. He was judged by Metro Boomin. A year or two later, they go out to make a big record called Ric Flair Drip. Had like I think now it might have like 500,000,000 views on YouTube. So again, you're seeing
Mm.
someone who's a producer being judged by somebody. Next thing he's collaborating with that said judge, and next thing they go make a monster record. Um, so there's just so many of those different kind of scenarios and stories of how it started and what position they were in at the time, who they connected with, who they networked with. Um, you know, someone like Arthur MacArthur, can't forget him. He battled Wonder 2 years, and they were so close together. One year they felt like Wonder won, one year they felt like MacArthur won. But however it ended, they ended up collaborating, and they produced for a song with Drake and Bun B called Uptown Anthem, I think it is, or Uptown, just Uptown. So there's just a lot of those stories of how things happen, and it's all for the most part just natural energy. It's not like nothing forced to happen or we tried to make it happen. It was just like things that just fell into place and just happened to happen, and it's just a lot of those moments. So, Wonder Girl going up against Branches got heat. Next thing they working together, producing. Both have big records. I think they both have records with. Well, he has a record with Eminem. She already has her own catalog with Travis and whole bunch of Jay-Z and a whole bunch of different artists like that. So, everybody did their thing, but it was like Boy Wonder kind of set it off, and from 2010 onward, it's just been like that. But as I said, I give them like a 15-year run of domination where it was just like Toronto producers, Toronto sound, Toronto, all eyes on Toronto for like that 15-year run for sure.
One producer that stands out in my mind, and before we wrap it up, maybe you can just talk about a little bit about his journey. Sarcastic Sounds.
Yeah. Another one, if you didn't mention him, it's so many names. Sometimes you just lose track of people, and it's not to take away from anybody. It's just a lot of names to remember all the time on the drop of a dime. So
Yeah.
Sarcastic, he battled like 3 years, I think 16, 17, 18 or something like that. He never won a battle, or he never won like the full battle, he won like the smaller rounds. But yet and still he made such an impact on people that years later, like up to this year, beat that he played like 7, 8 years ago went viral. Up to last year, the Pink
Mm.
Panther beat. So this is like 6, 7 years after he played the beat in the battle, it went viral. You know, and it's like those are the things that people kind of take for granted sometimes. It's like you don't always have to win the battle. You could lose the battle, but still make such an impact on somebody in the crowd. Could have been the judge, could have been a record label manager or owner in the crowd, could have been a engineer in the crowd, it could have been an artist in the crowd, whoever. They could have seen it in person, they
Right.
could have seen it on YouTube, they could have heard about it, someone could have shared it with them, but somehow he connected and impressed somebody who was connected. Well, he impressed Manny Fresh, who was a judge at the battle. And I guess Manny Fresh's manager at the time, David Jackson, connected with Sarcastic. One and one led to another. One thing led to another, and next thing you know, Sarcastic is producing for Lil Wayne. Same beat as it played on the stage at BBM, verbatim was on Lil Wayne's album. Then I think Manny might have added something to real light, but you could really tell the difference. It sounded exactly the same as it was on BBM stage. So you're taking a beat that a
Right,
producer that
right, right.
nobody knows is playing, and next thing that same beat from an unknown producer lands on Lil Wayne's album. And those are the kind of things that just spontaneous, you know? A producer from New Jersey came up one year, 2018, might have been the same battle. It was the same battle. And
Same
he
battle. Same
impressed
battle.
Just Blaze, you know, and on the spot, Just Blaze wanted to buy the beat off him. Like, where does that happen?
Yeah,
Like, you're coming to kind of play homage to Just Blaze as a judge, and you know, all respect to Just Blaze, and then he hears your beat and wants to buy your beat, you know. So that's the
yeah.
last thing. Like, nobody mentioned that was going to happen. Nobody even considered that that could happen, but spontaneous, it just happened, you know. So even though he didn't win the whole battle, that's a forever bragging rights. You know, that's forever bragging points to carry that on, to wear that on your shoulder or your chest or whatever. You know, to know that, you know, I impressed Just Blaze. That says something in and of itself, even if I didn't win the battle. You know,
For
so
sure.
those kind of
For sure.
stories have throughout the years, like those kind of things. Even now, like now, when I'll hear like a record or I'll hear an accolade that this guy just won a Grammy, it's like, ah, that's cool. Not knowing that that's so and so who was in the battle a couple years ago, but he changed his name. You know, so you hear like
Right, right, right.
these things are like a constant for me. I constantly get this person just produced for this big artist. This one just won a Grammy. This one just got nominated. This one just did this, and it's like, bro, we're like 20 years in, and you're still getting this constant flux of people that are hitting a new plateau, hitting a new height in their career. You know, so that's like the constant validation you get. Even when you kind of fell back from something, you can still see the wheels are still churning. You know, it's still
Be
working.
working.
You know, so
Well, not only that, like since then, like the spawning of so many other beat
right,
battles that's just been popping up, whether it be locally or
right,
even just
right,
across the country,
right,
across the
right,
continent. It just seems like, it just that was a start of a
right,
thing,
right,
right? And people have taken up the mantle on themselves, and these producers who've been in the BBM competition have now gone on to
right.
other competitions.
Again, the caliber of producers are coming from all over the world: Africa, Europe, Russia, China. We've been doing that for years. Like, you're getting all the continents, all countries are coming to Toronto, which was another thing that was like a phenomenon. Like, we've had, like, in the early days of Toronto hip hop, we would have like producers or artists coming from like Buffalo, New York, stuff like that. But to have like artists coming from China, Russia, Africa, Caribbean, UK, out of their own pocket, France, to come here,
Yeah, yeah.
that was like unheard of. And that's what we were doing for like almost like a 10-year run of doing that. In the meantime, we just sit back and continue hearing the accolades that producers, it's not like they need BBM. Like, those producers that already came through the platform, they're already out there doing their thing. They're
Right.
already in the world. They're already making hit records all over the world. Some are getting scores in films. Some are starting their own publishing companies. Some are starting their own labels. Some are starting their own clothing, like clothing brands. Like, they're doing. It's amazing what they're doing, But there's a lot of people out here that
Yeah,
that
yeah.
covered a lot of ground, and they're planting seeds of their own. They're signing producers under them. So it's an interesting family
Yeah.
tree.
For me though, it's become synonymous with just the beat making fraternity in itself. So even if you're not going on to produce for somebody huge or do anything on a monumental scale, having that BBM title means
Right,
something. So it's like if that competition pops up tomorrow, producers is like, okay, I'm gonna enter
right,
because I also want to be put up there with the
right,
greats of winning a BBM
right. For
competition.
sure,
So
for sure.
now it's definitely made a name for itself, and it's supplanted itself in the hip hop for sure, as far as producers
And
are
it did it
concerned.
from Toronto, which is another thing. Like a producer back in the day, or like an
Yeah,
artist back in the day. I gotta move to New York. I gotta move to LA. I gotta move somewhere. We did this without going anywhere. We brought the world to us. You
not
know what I
anywhere,
mean? We never stepped foot out of
not
Toronto.
anywhere.
We brought the whole world, all four corners of the world here. And that itself is also something that I'm proud of, that we could do that, like have something that's worthy enough that you would want to spend your own money to fly from South Africa, fly from Russia, fly from China, out of your own pocket, that you have that much love and belief in an event that you would do that. It's a rare thing in Toronto. I don't know of any event in Toronto
Rare.
that had that kind of pull, that could do that, you know?
Man, when they were flying in for Africa, I was like, yo, this
Right.
is this is
Right,
crazy.
right, right. And even the US judges are seeing it like, okay, we're in the US and these guys are flying in from here. So
Yeah,
those are the smaller things that you appreciate, and your gratitude for those things is like, it's not always about just winning a Grammy and all that stuff. Those are great, but just the fact that someone respects your brand enough and loves your brand enough, and believes in your brand enough that they're gonna spend money out of their pocket to fly, even from Cali, whether it's from Jersey, whether it's from Texas. Bring their mother with
yeah,
them. Some people brought their mother with them. Some brought their girlfriend with them. Some people brought a crew with them. Like some dudes from France brought a crew with them. So like
yeah.
those things speak volumes, and those things are the things that you really like take to heart when you see that kind of love.
Yeah, and listen, man, and shout out to the manufacturers that came through and supported, like the
Right,
Akais, the Native
right,
Instruments, the
right,
Rolands,
right,
the
right,
Yamahas. It's they definitely seen what we were doing and just gravitated towards it and understood it was for the culture. And these kids grew up either wanting to buy
right,
their stuff to actually getting the chance to win
right.
some of the
Most
stuff.
definitely.
So yeah,
They
shout
won
out
a
to them
lot.
for
There's a lot.
supporting
I mean,
for
there's
real.
so many stuff. All those ones you mentioned, they all gave away great prizes: hardware, software. Serato, can't forget them. They also gave stuff away.
Can't
You
forget
know what I mean?
Serato.
So there's a lot of sponsors that came through. Um, Mostly in the later years, like in the early years, it was very few. Music marketing was probably like one of the few equipment companies, other than like Long and
Right.
McQuaid. I think Roland was in there. Roland was in there early, but like Native and Serato and those ones, they came a little bit later on board. But all love, nonetheless.
That's dope. That's dope. And just before we finish off, I guess the latest thing is the Imsta Festas and the beat
Right.
battles. You participating in that this year,
Um.
or because I think that's one of the things people are kind of looking forward to when Insta
Right.
Festa comes
Right. Right.
around,
Right.
especially in
It's
Toronto.
become that. It's become that. We didn't know that that's where it was gonna go. Um. So yeah, I mean, I haven't spoken to the team yet for this year. We'll see. We'll still see how that goes. I don't.
Right.
I mean, I'm not even sure what the date is for this year, because last year they had to change the usual scheduling because of other, conflicting schedules and stuff like that. Um. So yeah, it depends on like the scheduling, and just to see what the team has in mind, what the plan is for this year. I'm not sure what the plan is for this year, but we've been doing it for two. We did it 2 years so far, I believe it is. Yeah, we did 2 years so far.
Yes.
So um, yeah, we came right up out of COVID, jumped into Imsta Festa. You know what I'm saying? So it was kind of like it's a different vibe. It's an interesting vibe, but it's a classroom. For those that don't know, it's a battle in a classroom. So if you could think of what you've seen on YouTube or online or in person at Opera House and condense that into a
Yeah.
classroom in a university, it's a different, it's a whole different vibe, but it's very intimate because it's very small, maybe like 50 people. Um,
You know what I think makes it so dope is that the people who are going to Imsta Festa, that is their
right,
lane. Like a lot of them are either trying to be producers or trying to be
right,
engineers. They're somewhere in the music industry
right,
mix. So to kind of have like the battle placed right there in the midst of it all, because just like you're saying, it's a classroom. A lot of these people are going from seeing a Pro Tools
right,
demonstration to seeing an FL studio demonstration, to see, all these different things. And then, apart from the keynote
Right.
speakers, which, they usually have some really big keynote speakers, it's become one of those events where people are like, okay, there's only so much people that can be in a room. Let me make sure I book so I can get into that
Right.
room.
Another thing I learned from them is it's a testing ground to kind of cut your teeth on, because some producers who might not know if they're ready for BBM big stage, and they don't even join the IMSTA battle. They just show up, and then they have their seat, they have their
Right,
USB on them. After the battle is over, it's like, yo, can I play this beat? So it's like they just want to test. They know they
right,
have the
right.
right audience there. So it's like they're not sure if they're really ready for prime time, but let me just test it. And let me just play a beat after, maybe get 10 people in there. So even if they don't like it, it's only 10 people, but it's just a way to just to get some quick feedback to see if they're even ready for a bigger stage. And I know there's a lot of producers do that. Like there'll be a lineup of like 5 people who all want to play their beat. They weren't in the battle. They just sat in the crowd and listened to everything. And now just to get us, you, me, or whoever is there, just to get our quick feedback,
Just,
just to see like
just
what
to
we
hear
think
it.
about it. And some people just like that, next time you'd see them register for BBM. Once they got that love or that little cosign, like, okay, I'll register for the next battle now that I see what it is, So
Right, right.
people are out there, talents
Dope,
out there, but
yo.
sometimes they just need that little push, that little confident boost.
They just
No
need
different than Boy
that
Wonder
little
needed.
oomph.
No different than what he needed. He needed that validation too, and you see where it's gone.
Yo, just that little
Right,
oomph and
right.
get them
That's all
going.
they need. That's all he needed,
You know,
and his story is movie worthy. Like that. That's a movie right there. And everybody that came after
for
him,
sure.
that's definitely a movie right there. So you know, it's a good message for anybody in life in general, just to give them that push, that nudge. A child, a son, a daughter. Sometimes they just need that push to be a photographer, a pilot, engineer, whatever they want to do in life. They just need that little push to let
Yeah,
them know, like, it's possible. Many lessons came out of it for sure.
that's dope, man. Listen, man, Clifton, thank you once
Sure.
again. On behalf of all the producers who, came through the lineage of the BBM, we thank you for not only coming up with the idea, but seeing it through for such a long time and giving these guys a platform where they can go ahead and not just shine on, but you know, some have had really illustrious careers from it.
For sure.
So once again, we thank you. I'm looking forward to the next BBM because it's just like you said, it's like an alumni, it's like a
Right.
fraternity. People just show up. This it's a community that
Right.
it's built that people just forever will love it, man. So
Salute.
thank you.
Respect.
All right, well, we're signing off. Once again, Clifton from Sound Supremacy, BBM, Not Your Average Joseph from Music, and this has been Producer Unplugged.
Peace.
Peace.